In the blood-soaked mountains of Eastern Europe, SEAL Team Echo had 30 seconds before complete annihilation. Commander Ryan Cole pressed his back against the jagged rock, feeling the heat of incoming mortars shake the earth beneath his boots. 5 enemy fighters for every one of his men. No extraction, no backup, no hope. Until a single rifle crack split the air, and death itself began hunting the hunters. This is the story of how one hidden sniper struck with fury and rewrote the fate of an entire SEAL team. Stay with me until the end of this 2-hour journey and comment below what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this incredible story of brotherhood and sacrifice has traveled across the globe. The morning mist clung to the Carpathian peaks like a funeral shroud, its ghostly tendrils weaving between the ancient pines that had witnessed centuries of bloodshed. Commander Ryan Cole crouched behind a granite outcropping, his weathered hands gripping his M4 carbine as he surveyed the valley below through his scope. The silence was deceptive, the kind of quiet that precedes thunder, that makes seasoned warriors check their weapons twice and whisper prayers to gods they'd forgotten in peacetime. "Visual on the compound," whispered Petty Officer Marcus Tank Rodriguez through the comm, his voice barely audible even through the encrypted channel. The massive Puerto Rican lay prone 50 meters to Cole's left, his M249 saw positioned to cover the narrow mountain path that served as their only escape route. "Count 12 tangos on the perimeter. Looks like they're expecting company." Cole's jaw tightened as he adjusted his position. Intel had promised a simple extraction, get in, retrieve the package, get out. But Intel had been wrong before, and in the mountains of Eastern Europe, wrong intel meant body bags. The package was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a nuclear physicist who'd stumbled onto something that had every alphabet agency in Washington losing sleep. Something worth dying for, apparently. "Overwatch, this is Echo 6, Cole sub-vocalized into his throat mic. "We're in position. Confirm package location." The response crackled through static. "Echo 6 package is in the central building's 2nd floor northeast corner. Be advised, enemy activity has increased significantly in the last hour. Recommend you abort and—" The transmission cut to dead air. Cole felt the familiar ice-cold sensation that had kept him alive through 15 years of special operations. When communications went dark, it usually meant someone was about to have a very bad day. He keyed his mic twice the signal for radio silence and began moving toward his team's rally point. Staff Sergeant Tommy Ghost Chen materialized from behind a moss-covered boulder like his call sign suggested, his Asian features painted with woodland camouflage that made him nearly invisible in the dappled mountain light. The former Force Recon Marine had joined the SEALs 3 years ago, bringing with him an uncanny ability to appear and disappear at will. His specialty was close-quarters combat, but today he carried a suppressed HK-416 for the longer ranges the mountain terrain demanded. "Something's wrong, boss," Chen whispered, his dark eyes scanning the tree line. "Birds went quiet about 5 minutes ago, and I'm picking up diesel fumes on the wind." Petty Officer 2nd Class James Cowboy Mitchell low-crawled toward their position, his Texas drawl barely contained even in whispers. "Y'all might want to take a look at this." The former Army Ranger turned SEAL demolitions expert had a reputation for understatement that usually preceded very bad news. He handed Cole a small periscope mirror, angling it to reflect the view of the opposite ridge. Cole's blood chilled as he studied the reflection. Vehicle movement. Lots of it. Military trucks snaking up the mountain road like a mechanical centipede, their canvas-covered beds undoubtedly filled with hostiles. He counted at least 8 vehicles, which meant between 60 and 80 enemy fighters converging on their position. "Rodriguez," Cole whispered into his mic. "How's our 6 tanks' response came through, tense and clipped. Boss, we got movement on the back trail too. Estimate 15 to 20 dismounts moving tactical. They're trying to box us in." The pieces of the puzzle fell into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't a random encounter or bad luck. They'd been set up. Someone had leaked their mission parameters, their insertion point, their timeline. The enemy wasn't just expecting them, they'd prepared a killing ground. "Echo Team, this is 6, Cole transmitted on the squad frequency. "We are compromised. I say again, we are compromised. Prepare for immediate exfil." But even as he spoke, the words, Cole knew they were trapped. The mountain path behind them was crawling with hostiles, the road ahead was blocked by incoming reinforcements, and the terrain on either side was too steep for tactical movement. They were caught in a natural bowl with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Petty Officer First Class David "Doc" Williams appeared at Cole's shoulder, the team's corpsman and secondary sniper moving with the fluid grace that marked all elite operators. The former college football player from Alabama had hands gentle enough to suture a wound and steady enough to put a bullet through a dime at 800 meters. His M110 semi-automatic sniper system was already unslung and ready for action. "Sir," Doc said quietly, "we've got approximately 15 minutes before those trucks reach the valley floor. If we're gonna move, it's gotta be now." Cole studied the tactical situation with the cold calculation that had kept him alive through deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, and a dozen other countries whose names never appeared in official reports. Every option led to the same conclusion: they were outnumbered at least 5-1, with no hope of reinforcement and no clear avenue of escape. "All right, listen up," he said, gathering his team around him. "We all knew this job was voluntary when we signed up. We've got 60 to 80 hostiles converging on our position, and our primary mission remains unchanged: extract the package." Tank shifted his considerable bulk, the big machine gunner's scarred face showing no emotion. "Rules of engagement, boss." "Anyone who's not us," Cole replied grimly. "We go in fast and hard, grab the dock, and shoot our way out. Tank, you and Cowboy take point and clear the compound. Ghost, you're with me on Overwatch. Doc, you cover R6 and be ready for casualties." The team began their final weapons check with the methodical precision that separated professionals from amateurs. Magazines were counted, medical supplies, distributed, communication protocols confirmed. Each man carried enough ammunition for a sustained firefight, but Cole knew that in a battle of attrition, numbers always won. "Movement," Doc reported, his scope trained on the compound below. "Looks like they're moving the package. 3 guards escorting a female in civilian clothes toward the main building." Cole raised his binoculars and spotted Dr. Vasquez, a small, dark-haired woman in her 40s who looked more like a college professor than someone worth starting a war over. Her escorts were professional soldiers in unmarked fatigues carrying AK-74 assault rifles and moving with the disciplined spacing of experienced fighters. "Windows closing," Ghost observed. "We move now, or we lose her." The decision point had arrived the moment when calculation gave way to action, when planning met reality, and when elite warriors discovered whether their training was sufficient for the crucible ahead. Cole took a deep breath of the thin mountain air, tasting pine and snow, and the metallic tang of approaching violence. "Echo Team, execute in 30 seconds, he transmitted. "Tank and Cowboy, advance on my mark. Ghost and I will provide overwatch from the ridge. Doc, maintain security on our rear, and be ready to move when I call it." The seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness. Cole could hear his heartbeat in his ears, feel the familiar pre-combat surge of adrenaline that sharpened his senses and slowed time to a crawl. 20 seconds. 15. 10. Echo Team, this is 6. Execute, execute, execute. Tank and Cowboy moved down the slope, like hunting wolves, their weapons ready, and their movements coordinated through years of training and combat experience. They covered each other in bounding overwatch, one man moving, while the other provided security, closing the distance to the compound with practiced efficiency. Cole and Ghost took position on the ridge, their rifles trained on the compound's defensive positions. Through his scope, Cole could see enemy sentries beginning to react to the approaching Americans, their body language shifting from bored alertness to active concern. "Contact front," Tank's voice crackled through the comm. "2 tangos at the main gate, both armed with—" The mountain erupted in gunfire. Muzzle flashes strobed from the compound as automatic weapons opened up their distinctive chatter echoing off the valley walls. Tank's saw responded with its deeper, more authoritative voice, laying down suppressing fire as Cowboy flanked to the left. "Taking fire from multiple positions," Cowboy reported, his Texas accent thickening under stress. "These boys ain't amateurs, boss. They've got overlapping fields of fire and good cover." Cole squeezed his trigger, and 300 meters away, an enemy machine gunner pitched backward off his sandbagged position. Ghost's rifle spoke a fraction of a second later, dropping the gunner's assistant before he could take over the weapon. "Good shooting," Cole muttered, already acquiring his next target. "Keep them honest." But even as his team fought with the skill and determination that had made them legends, Cole could see the bigger picture deteriorating rapidly. The enemy reinforcements were less than 10 minutes out, and his team was already burning through ammunition at an unsustainable rate. "Doc, talk to me," he called over the growing crescendo of gunfire. "Rear area still clear, but I'm seeing dust clouds on the access road. Company's coming and they're bringing friends." Through his scope, Cole watched Tank advance under cover of Cowboy's suppressing fire, the big Puerto Rican moving with surprising grace for a man of his size. They were making progress, but slowly, too slowly. The enemy defenders were well-trained and well-positioned, forcing the SEALs to fight for every meter of ground. A rocket-propelled grenade shrieked overhead, impacting against the ridge in a shower of stone and dirt. The enemy was bringing up heavier weapons, escalating the engagement beyond small arms fire. "Ghost displace left 20 meters, Cole ordered. "They've got our position marked." The former Marine rolled behind better cover just as another RPG round exploded where he'd been lying. Fragments whistled through the air, one piece slicing through Cole's sleeve and leaving a burning line across his forearm. "Tank status report," Cole called, wiping blood from his arm. 30 meters from the main building," Tank replied, between bursts of gunfire. "But they've got at least 6 fighters in hardened positions. We need more time." Time was the one commodity they didn't have. Cole could hear the diesel engines growing louder, see the dust clouds approaching from 3 different directions. In less than 5 minutes, his 4-man team would be facing odds that would make Thermopylae look like a fair fight. "All stations, this is Echo 6, he transmitted on the emergency frequency. "Requesting immediate close air support, danger, close over." Static. Dead air. They were on their own. A new sound joined the symphony of violence, the distinctive whump, whump, whump of incoming mortar rounds. The enemy wasn't just trying to pin them down anymore, they were trying to obliterate them. The first mortar round impacted 50 meters from Tank's position, showering him with dirt and debris. The second landed closer. The third closer still. The enemy mortar team was walking their fire across the battlefield with methodical precision, adjusting their aim with each shot. "Incoming mortars," Doc shouted over the comm. "They're bracketing our positions." Cole felt the familiar sensation of walls closing in, options disappearing, hope fading like smoke in the mountain wind. This was how elite warriors died, not in glorious last stands or heroic charges, but ground down by superior numbers and firepower, eroded like mountains by rain, until nothing remained but memory and folded flags. "Boss," Ghost said quietly, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Been an honor." Before Cole could respond, a new sound cut through the battle. Sharp, clean, and utterly unexpected. The crack of a high-powered rifle, different from their own weapons, different from anything the enemy was using. And with that single shot, everything changed. The enemy machine gunner, who'd been raking Tank's position, suddenly pitched forward a spray of blood marking where a bullet had found its target. But the shot hadn't come from any of Cole's team. It had come from somewhere else entirely, somewhere high up in the mountains where no friendly forces were supposed to be. "What the hell?" Cowboy's voice came through the calm confusion, mixing with relief. Another crack, another impossible shot. An enemy sniper who'd been zeroing in on Ghost's position toppled from his nest, his rifle clattering down the rocky slope. Then another, and another. "Unknown sniper! Unknown sniper!" Cole transmitted on all frequencies. "Identify yourself." No response. But the shooting continued with surgical precision, each shot eliminating a specific threat, each target chosen with tactical brilliance that spoke of professional military training at the highest level. Cole swept his scope across the surrounding peaks, searching for any sign of their mysterious benefactor. Nothing. Whoever was out there possessed fieldcraft skills that rivaled his own team's remaining invisible, even while engaging targets at extreme range. "Tank, push forward," Cole ordered, seizing the opportunity. "Someone's giving us cover fire." "Copy that, boss. Moving now." The big machine gunner bounded forward, taking advantage of the confusion among the enemy ranks. Their carefully coordinated defense was falling apart as key personnel were eliminated by an unseen marksman who seemed to anticipate their every move. Cowboy flanked around the compound's eastern wall, his demolition charges ready to breach the building where Dr. Vasquez was being held. The enemy defenders were falling back, their command structure decimated by precise rifle fire from the mountains. "Visual on the package," Tank reported. "Second floor northeast corner, just like Intel said. But she's got 2 guards with her and they look spooked." Another rifle crack echoed across the valley, and one of Dr. Vasquez's guards spun away from the window, clutching his shoulder. The second guard dove for cover, leaving the physicist exposed and clearly terrified. "Moving to extract," Cowboy announced, his charges detonating against the building's rear wall in a cloud of dust and debris. The Texan disappeared into the smoke, his rifle ready for close-quarters combat. Cole continued scanning the ridgelines, desperate to identify their savior. The precision of the shots, the tactical acumen displayed in target selection, the fieldcraft required to remain undetected, it all spoke of an operator with skills that matched or exceeded his own team's capabilities. "Package secured," Cowboy's voice crackled through the comm. "Doc's a little shaken up, but she's mobile." "Outstanding. Exfil to Rally Point Alpha." But even as his team began their withdrawal, Cole could see the larger tactical picture. The enemy reinforcements were less than 2 minutes out, and their mysterious guardian angel couldn't stop an entire mechanized unit single-handedly. "All stations, we need to move fast," he transmitted. "We've got company coming, and lots of it." The mortar fire had stopped, probably because the enemy didn't want to hit their own reinforcements, but Cole could hear the rumble of heavy vehicles approaching from multiple directions. Diesel engines, tracked vehicles, and the higher-pitched whine of what sounded like armored personnel carriers. "Ghost Doc covering fire on the access road," he ordered. "Tank Cowboy bound back to the rally point with the package." His team executed the withdrawal with textbook precision, each man covering the others as they leapfrogged back toward the mountain path that represented their only hope of escape. But Cole knew they were racing against time and physics. They simply couldn't move fast enough to outdistance motorized pursuit. The first enemy truck crested the ridge just as Tank reached the rally point, its bed filled with soldiers in combat gear. More vehicles followed, disgorging troops who immediately began moving to cut off the SEAL's escape route. "Contact rear," Doc reported, his sniper rifle barking as he engaged targets at long range. "Multiple vehicles, estimate 40 to 50 dismounts." Cole's mind raced through their remaining options. They could try to break contact and evade through the mountains, but Dr. Vasquez wasn't trained for that kind of movement, and they'd be hunted by superior numbers across familiar terrain. They could try to fight their way out, but the odds were prohibitive and getting worse by the minute. Then impossibly salvation arrived in the form of another precision rifle shot. The lead enemy vehicle, an armored personnel carrier that had been advancing on their position, suddenly lurched to a halt as its driver slumped over the controls. A second shot disabled the vehicle behind it, creating a roadblock that trapped the entire convoy. "Jesus Christ," Tank breathed over the comm. "Whoever that is, they just saved our asses." But Cole knew their mysterious protector couldn't work miracles. There were too many enemies, too many vehicles, too many ways for the situation to go bad. They needed a new plan, and they needed it now. "All stations rally on me," he ordered. "We're changing the game." As his team converged on his position, Cole studied the tactical situation with fresh eyes. Their unknown ally had given them a reprieve, but reprieve wasn't victory. They were still outnumbered, still trapped, and still facing odds that would challenge even the most elite warriors. But they were SEALs, and SEALs didn't quit. They adapted. They overcame. And sometimes when the odds were impossible and hope was lost, they found ways to make the impossible happen. The real battle was just beginning. The mountain air crackled with tension as Cole's team huddled behind a cluster of granite boulders, their breathing visible in the thin atmosphere. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed herself against the cold stone, her academic composure shattered by the reality of warfare. Her dark eyes darted between the faces of her rescuers, searching for reassurance that none of them could honestly provide. "How many more are coming?" she whispered, her slight Spanish accent thickening with fear. "Enough to make this interesting," Cowboy replied, his Texas drawl carrying a grim humor that masked his own concern. He checked his remaining ammunition, 3 magazines for his rifle, 2 for his sidearm, and a handful of grenades that wouldn't last long against the numbers they were facing. Cole studied the valley through his binoculars, watching the enemy forces reorganize after their mysterious Guardians intervention. The disabled vehicles had created chaos, but it was temporary. Professional soldiers adapted quickly, and these fighters were showing all the hallmarks of serious military training. "Boss," Tank whispered urgently, his massive frame somehow compressed behind cover that seemed too small for him. "Movement on the eastern ridge. Looks like they're trying to flank us." Through his scope, Cole could see the tactical picture developing with crystalline clarity. The enemy commander, whoever he was, had recognized the threat posed by the unknown sniper and was adapting his strategy accordingly. Instead of a frontal assault that would expose his men to long-range fire, he was dispersing his forces across multiple approaches, forcing their mysterious protector to choose targets while others advanced. "Smart," Ghost murmured, having reached the same conclusion. "They're using squad-level tactics, bounding Overwatch mutual support. These aren't militia fighters." Doc Williams adjusted his position to cover the team's rear approach, his M110 sweeping across potential avenues of attack. "Professional military, probably Spetsnaz or equivalent. The kind of operators who get called when governments want problems to disappear quietly." Another rifle crack echoed from the peaks above, and Cole watched through his binoculars as an enemy machine gun team preparing to set up on a commanding ridge suddenly lost their gunner. The precision was extraordinary, a shot that had to be at least 1,500 meters in mountainous terrain with unpredictable wind patterns. "Whoever's up there is good," Tank observed unconsciously, lowering his voice as if their benefactor might overhear. "I mean scary good. That last shot was impossible." "Nothing's impossible if you're willing to pay the price," Cole replied, but his mind was racing. The shooting demonstrated a level of skill that belonged in the realm of legend rather than reality. He'd worked with the best snipers in the world, Marine Scout, snipers, Army Rangers, Delta Force operators, and he'd never seen anything quite like this. Dr. Vasquez fumbled in her jacket pocket, producing a small digital device that looked like a modified smartphone. "Commander, I need to tell you something about why they want me. This isn't just about nuclear research." "Doc, now's not the time for show and tell," Cowboy said, his attention focused on the approaching enemy squads. "We can debrief when we're somewhere that ain't about to become a free fire zone." "You don't understand," she insisted, her voice carrying an urgency that made Cole look at her more carefully. "This device contains algorithms that can predict sniper positions based on ballistic analysis. The shots we're hearing, they're coming from at least 3 different positions, but the ballistic signatures suggest a single shooter moving between prepared hides." Ghost's eyebrows rose in surprise. 3 positions. That's a triangle covering almost 2 square kilometers of mountainous terrain. No one moves that fast, especially not while maintaining shooting accuracy. Unless they prepared the positions in advance, Cole realized the tactical implications hitting him like a physical blow. Someone knew we'd be here. Someone knew we'd need help. Someone's been watching this whole operation unfold. The revelation sent chills down his spine that had nothing to do with the mountain cold. If their mysterious sniper had advanced knowledge of the mission, it meant either they had intelligence sources at the highest levels of the military command structure, or they had been tracking Cole's team for some time. Movement front. Doc reported his scope, trained on the valley floor. 6 dismounts advancing in fire team formation using the destroyed vehicles for cover. Cole studied the approaching enemy through his binoculars. They moved with the fluid coordination of elite soldiers, using terrain effectively and maintaining proper spacing to minimize casualties from explosive devices. Their weapons were clean and well-maintained, their equipment modern and standardized. "Russian?" he asked Ghost, who had spent considerable time studying foreign military units. "Possibly. Could be Wagner Group or similar private military contractors. The gear's Russian, but that doesn't mean much these days. Half the mercenary units in Eastern Europe use surplus Soviet equipment." Another precision shot rang out from the mountains, and the lead enemy soldier crumpled to the rocky ground. But this time, Cole caught something he'd missed before a brief muzzle flash reflected off a snow patch high above them. For just an instant, he glimpsed the location of their guardian angel. "There," he whispered, pointing toward a rocky outcropping nearly 3,000 meters away. "Northwest ridge just below the tree line." Tank squinted in the direction Cole indicated. "Boss, that's got to be damn near 3 clicks away. Shooting that distance in these mountains? Hell, the bullet drop alone would be enough to discourage most snipers." "Most snipers aren't saving our lives right now," Doc pointed out pragmatically. "Whoever they are, I'm voting. We send them a fruit basket when this is over." Dr. Vasquez was studying her device intently, her academic mind apparently processing data even under combat conditions. "The ballistic computer is showing something unusual. The shots aren't just accurate, they're perfectly calibrated for atmospheric conditions that shouldn't be measurable without sophisticated meteorological equipment." "Meaning what exactly?" Cowboy asked, never taking his eyes off the advancing enemy. "Meaning whoever's shooting has access to real-time weather data, atmospheric pressure readings, wind speed, and direction at multiple altitudes, and probably satellite imagery for range confirmation. This isn't just a skilled sniper. This is someone with military-grade support infrastructure. Cole felt the pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to coalesce. But before he could pursue the thought, the tactical situation demanded his immediate attention. The enemy forces had split into multiple groups approaching from 3 different directions simultaneously. Their mysterious protector couldn't cover all approaches, which meant choices had to be made. "Contact left," Ghost reported, his rifle already swinging toward new targets. 8 dismounts moving through the pine grove approximately 400 meters. "I've got them," Doc replied, settling into a prone shooting position. "Taking the shot." His M110 barked once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. Through the scope, Cole watched 2 enemy soldiers drop, while the others dove for cover among the trees. Doc was an exceptional marksman, but even he couldn't match the impossible precision they'd been witnessing from the mountains. "Tank shift left and give Ghost supporting fire," Cole ordered. "Cowboy, you and I are going to cover the withdrawal route. Doc, how's our 6? "Still clear, but I'm seeing movement on the access road. Looks like they're bringing up more vehicles, probably trying to box us in completely." The enemy was executing a classic encirclement maneuver, using superior numbers to overwhelm their position through coordinated pressure from multiple directions. It was textbook tactics professionally executed, and under normal circumstances, it would have been devastatingly effective. But their circumstances were far from normal. Another rifle crack from the peaks, and the enemy machine gun team that had been setting up to enfilade their position suddenly found themselves 1 man short. The precision was becoming almost supernatural, each shot eliminating the exact threat that posed the greatest danger to Cole's team. "Whoever's up there is reading the tactical situation like a book," Ghost observed between shots from his own rifle. "They're not just shooting targets of opportunity. They're disrupting specific threats in order of priority." "Professional military training," Tank agreed, his saw chattering as he laid down, suppressing fire. "Special operations level. Maybe better." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her device with an expression of academic fascination mixed with growing horror. "Commander, the ballistic analysis is showing something impossible. The shooting positions are too far apart to be covered by a single person in the time intervals between shots. Either we're dealing with multiple snipers in perfect coordination or what?" Cole demanded, his attention split between her revelation and the advancing enemy forces. "Or we're dealing with someone whose capabilities exceed normal human parameters." Before Cole could process the implications of that statement, a new development changed the entire dynamic of the battle. The sharp whistle of incoming artillery rounds split the mountain air, growing louder and more ominous with each passing second. "Incoming!" Tank roared, his voice carrying across the battlefield with parade ground authority. The team hit the ground as the first shell impacted 50 meters from their position, showering them with rock fragments and choking dust. The explosion was followed immediately by others walking across the mountainside with the methodical precision of professional artillery crews. "They've got our position marked," Doc shouted over the thunderous barrage. "We need to move now." But movement under artillery fire was a calculated risk that could easily become suicide. The enemy gunners were clearly experienced, adjusting their fire based on observed impacts and maintaining a steady rate that would make displacement extremely dangerous. Cole pressed himself against the granite boulder as another shell impacted nearby the concussion wave, hammering his body like an invisible fist. Through the chaos and smoke, he tried to maintain situational awareness, but the artillery was having its intended effect, pinning them in place while ground forces maneuvered for the killing blow. Then, impossibly, the artillery fire shifted. Instead of continuing to bracket their position, the incoming rounds began falling on the enemy assault teams. The precision was extraordinary, shells landing within meters of advancing soldiers while leaving Cole's team untouched. "What the hell?" Cowboy shouted, his voice barely audible over the explosions. "Did someone just turn their own artillery against them?" Through his binoculars, Cole could see the enemy forces scattering as their own fire support turned lethal. Soldiers who had been advancing with confidence were now diving for cover, their coordinated assault dissolving into chaos as shells landed among their ranks. Electronic warfare. Dr. Vasquez said, her academic mind apparently unaffected by the surrounding violence. Someone with sophisticated cyber capabilities just hacked their fire control systems and redirected the targeting data. That's not possible, Ghost protested, even as he watched enemy positions being systematically destroyed by their own weapons. Military fire control systems are hardened against cyber intrusion. The encryption alone would take weeks to break. Not if you have quantum computing capabilities and real-time signal intelligence, Dr. Vasquez replied matter-of-factly. The kind of resources that only exist at the highest levels of government black projects. Cole felt a chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air. If their mysterious protector had access to that level of technology and support, it raised questions about who they were dealing with and what larger game was being played on this remote mountainside. The artillery barrage continued for another 30 seconds before falling silent, leaving the battlefield shrouded in smoke and dust. In the sudden quiet, Cole could hear the moans of wounded enemy soldiers and the crackle of flames from destroyed vehicles. "Status report," he called to his team. "Green across the board," Tank replied, emerging from cover with his weapon ready. "But we're burning through ammo faster than I'd like." "Same here," Ghost added. "At this rate, we'll be throwing rocks in another 20 minutes. Doc Williams was scanning the battlefield through his scope, assessing the new tactical situation. "Enemy forces are reorganizing, but they've taken significant casualties. I count at least 15 KIA and probably twice that many wounded." "They'll call for reinforcements," Cowboy observed pragmatically. "And next time they'll bring bigger guns." Cole knew his demolitions expert was right. The enemy had just received a masterclass in the dangers of underestimating their opposition, and professional soldiers learned from such lessons quickly. The next wave would be larger, better equipped, and far more cautious. "We need to move while we have the opportunity," he decided. The artillery disruption bought us time, but not much. Dr. Vasquez was studying her device with increasing urgency. "Commander, I'm detecting massive electronic signals traffic. Someone is coordinating a multi-domain operation involving signals intelligent cyber warfare and kinetic targeting. This level of capability suggests nation-state resources." "Whose nation-state?" Cole asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. "That's what worries me. The signals architecture doesn't match any known military organization. It's too advanced, too integrated, too—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Too perfect." Before Cole could pursue that disturbing revelation, his attention was drawn to movement on the ridge above them. For just an instant, he caught sight of a figure silhouetted against the sky, tall, lean, dressed in what appeared to be advanced camouflage that seemed to shift and blend with the surrounding terrain. The figure raised what looked like a rifle, but instead of pointing it at the enemy, they appeared to be signaling toward Cole's position. 3 quick movements, then the figure melted back into the landscape as if they had never existed. "Did anyone else see that?" Cole asked quietly. "See what, boss?" Tank replied, scanning the ridgeline with his own optics. "Nothing. Never mind." But Cole's tactical instincts were screaming that something fundamental had just changed. The signal, if that's what it had been suggested, their mysterious protector wanted to make contact. But why now? And what did they want? Ghost was monitoring the enemy radio frequencies through his tactical intercept gear, his expression growing increasingly grim as he translated the intercepted communications. "Boss, you need to hear this. They're calling in close air support. Fixed-wing aircraft probably armed with precision-guided munitions." The implications hit Cole like a physical blow. Ground forces could be evaded or outfought with superior tactics and training, Artillery could be survived with proper cover and movement. But aircraft changed the entire equation, providing the enemy with mobility firepower and surveillance capabilities that would make continued resistance futile. "Time frame?" he asked, though he was already formulating contingency plans. 20 minutes, maybe less. And boss, they're not just calling in one aircraft. From the radio chatter, it sounds like they're scrambling everything they've got. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her device with an expression of academic fascination mixed with terror. "The electronic signatures are changing again. Someone's actively jamming their communications, but the jamming is adaptive. It's learning their frequency-hopping patterns faster than their equipment can adjust." "English, Doc," Cowboy said tersely. "Someone with quantum processing capabilities is engaged in real-time electronic warfare against a professional military unit, and they're winning." Cole felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. His team was trapped in the middle of what appeared to be a conflict between forces with capabilities that exceeded anything in his experience. Their mysterious protector was demonstrating technical and tactical abilities that bordered on the impossible, while the enemy was showing signs of backing from an organization with significant resources and professional competence. "All stations were changing our operational parameters," he announced. "Our primary mission remains unchanged: extract Dr. Vasquez safely. But we're going to try something new." He pulled out his emergency signaling mirror and began flashing a message toward the ridge where he'd glimpsed their mysterious guardian. It was a basic military communication protocol used when radio silence was essential, but coordination was necessary. The response came almost immediately, precise flashes of reflected sunlight that spelled out a message in perfect military code: "Follow the creek bed. Extraction point Alpha. 15 minutes." Cole felt his blood pressure spike. The message demonstrated intimate knowledge of their mission parameters, including extraction points that were classified at the highest levels of military command. Whoever was out there knew details about their operation that should have been available only to a handful of people in Washington. "Boss," Tank said quietly, "that signal just told us things that aren't supposed to exist outside the Pentagon." "I know," Cole replied grimly. "Which means we're dealing with someone who either has access to the most classified military communications in existence, or they're the ones who wrote the mission parameters in the first place." Doc finished his voice carrying a note of dawning comprehension. The possibility sent chills down Cole's spine. If their mysterious protector had been involved in planning the mission from the beginning, it meant the entire operation had been orchestrated for purposes that extended far beyond a simple extraction. They weren't just rescuing Dr. Vasquez, they were playing a role in a much larger game, whose rules and objectives remained hidden. Movement in the valley. Ghost reported his scope trained on the scattered enemy forces. "They're regrouping faster than expected. Professional leadership, good communication discipline, despite the jamming." Cole made his decision with the speed that had kept him alive through years of combat operations. "We follow the creek bed. Whatever's happening here is bigger than we understand, but our mission remains the same. We get the package out alive." "And trust our mysterious guardian angel?" Cowboy asked skeptically. "We trust our training, our weapons, and each other," Cole replied. "Everything else is just variables." As they prepared to move, Dr. Vasquez grabbed Cole's arm with surprising strength. "Commander, there's something else you need to know. The research they wanted me for, it wasn't just theoretical. We've been working on practical applications of quantum computing to military targeting systems. The capabilities we're seeing today, they might be field tests of the technology I helped develop." The revelation hit Cole like a lightning bolt. If their mysterious protector was using technology that Dr. Vasquez had helped create, it explained the impossible precision, the real-time adaptation to changing battlefield conditions, and the seamless integration of multiple combat systems. But it also raised the terrifying possibility that they weren't being rescued, they were being retrieved. The creek bed carved a serpentine path through the mountainside like a scar left by ancient gods, its rocky bottom offering concealment but treacherous footing for a team moving under combat conditions. Cole led the way, his boots finding purchase on the slick stones while his eyes constantly swept the ridgelines for threats. Behind him, doctors. Vasquez struggled to keep pace, her academic lifestyle having ill-prepared her for the physical demands of mountain warfare. "Watch your step, Doc," Cowboy whispered, steadying her as she nearly stumbled on a moss-covered boulder. "These rocks are slicker than a greased pig and we can't afford any noise." The creek bed provided natural defilade from enemy observation, but Cole knew it was also a potential killing ground if they were discovered. The steep banks would channel any attack into a devastating crossfire, and their movement was constrained by the terrain into a predictable pattern that any competent enemy could exploit. Tank brought up the rear. His massive frame somehow compressed into the narrow confines of the waterway, his saw ready to provide covering fire if their withdrawal was compromised. Every few meters he paused to listen and observe his combat-hardened instincts alert for any sign of pursuit. "Still clear behind us," he reported in barely audible whispers. "But I'm seeing aircraft contrails to the east. Whatever they called in is getting close." Ghost moved with his characteristic silent efficiency, his rifle covering the team's flanks, while his experienced eyes read the terrain for potential ambush sites. The former Marine had an almost supernatural ability to detect danger before it manifested a skill that had saved his teammates' lives on multiple occasions. "Something's not right," he murmured to Cole as they navigated around a fallen tree that blocked their path. "We should be seeing enemy pursuit by now. Professional soldiers don't just let high-value targets disappear without mounting a tracking operation." Cole had been thinking the same thing. The enemy forces they'd encountered had demonstrated competence and aggression, but their failure to pursue suggested either a lack of resources or knowledge of something that made pursuit inadvisable. Neither possibility was particularly comforting. "Doctor." Vasquez was studying her device even while moving her academic mind, apparently incapable of ignoring data even under life-threatening circumstances. "Commander, the electronic signals are changing again. Whatever was jamming their communications has shifted to active deception measures." "Meaning what exactly?" Cole asked, helping her over a particularly treacherous section of stream bed. "Meaning someone is now feeding false information into their command and control systems. Radio reports that sound authentic, but contain misleading intelligence about our location and movement." Doc Williams, monitoring their rear security, suddenly froze and held up a closed fist, the universal military signal for immediate halt. The team dropped into concealment behind the creek's rocky banks, weapons ready, and senses straining for any indication of threat. Through the mountain stillness came the distant sound of helicopters, their rotors beating a mechanical rhythm that grew steadily louder. Cole counted at least 3 distinct aircraft, possibly more, approaching from different vectors in what sounded like a coordinated search pattern. "Attack birds," Ghost whispered, recognizing the deeper pitch of military rotorcraft. "Probably gunships with thermal imaging and multispectrum sensors." The implications were sobering. Helicopter gunships could cover vast areas quickly, their advanced sensor packages capable of detecting human signatures even through forest canopy and natural concealment. If the enemy had committed aviation assets to the search, their window of escape was rapidly closing. "They're conducting a systematic sweep," Tank observed, pressing himself deeper into the shadows beneath an overhanging rock ledge. "Standard search pattern overlapping coverage zones, professional aviation tactics." Dr. Vasquez was manipulating her device with increasing urgency, her fingers flying across its interface as she processed incoming data. The electronic warfare signatures are intensifying. Someone is actively spoofing their sensor systems, creating false thermal signatures and phantom radar returns. Ghost helicopters. Cole realized, understanding the implications immediately. Someone's making them chase targets that don't exist. The sound of rotor blades passed directly overhead the aircraft, so low that Cole could feel the downwash disturbing the air around their hiding place. But instead of slowing to investigate, the helicopter continued its flight path without deviation, apparently following sensor contacts that led away from their actual position. "Impossible," Doc breathed, watching the aircraft disappear beyond the ridgeline. Military thermal imaging doesn't just malfunction like that. Those sensors are designed to penetrate every known countermeasure. Every known countermeasure, Dr. Vasquez repeated quietly. But not necessarily unknown ones. The quantum computing applications I was working on included theoretical models for real-time sensor manipulation. If someone had actually implemented those algorithms. She left the sentence hanging, but Cole understood the implications. Their mysterious protector wasn't just demonstrating exceptional marksmanship and tactical acumen. They had access to technology that could literally rewrite the rules of modern warfare. "Move," Cole ordered quietly. "Whatever's keeping those birds off our backs won't last forever." They resumed their movement through the creek bed, but the landscape was changing as they descended the mountainside. The rocky walls that had provided concealment were giving way to more open terrain where trees grew closer to the water's edge. Natural cover was becoming scarce, just as their need for it was becoming critical. "Extraction Point Alpha should be just ahead," Ghost reported, consulting his GPS unit. "About 200 meters downstream where the creek intersects with the main valley road." Cole felt his tactical instincts firing warning signals. An extraction point at a road intersection was tactically sound for vehicle pickup, but it was also predictable exactly the kind of location where professional enemies would position blocking forces or prepare ambushes. "Tank Ghost advance and recon the extraction site," he ordered. "Doc Cowboy, establish overwatch positions. I'll stay with the package." His team dispersed with practiced efficiency, each man understanding his role without need for detailed instructions. Years of training and combat experience had forged them into a cohesive unit that could function with minimal communication, even under extreme stress. Dr. Vasquez used the brief halt to study her device more intensively, her expression growing increasingly troubled as she processed whatever data it was displaying. "Commander, I'm detecting massive electronic activity centered on our extraction point. Someone is conducting real-time battlefield management using systems that shouldn't exist outside theoretical research." "Our guardian angel?" Cole asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer was more complicated than simple divine intervention. "Possibly. But the signal architecture suggests coordination with satellite networks, quantum computing nodes, and artificial intelligence systems operating at processing speeds that exceed anything currently deployed by any known military organization." Before Cole could respond to that disturbing revelation, Ghost's voice crackled through the comm system with urgent news. "Boss, you need to see this. Extraction Point Alpha is occupied but not by hostiles." "Explain," Cole demanded, already moving toward the advance team's position. "There's a vehicle waiting military spec but no identification markings. And boss, there's someone standing beside it. Single individual appears to be waiting for us specifically." Cole felt his pulse quicken as he approached the edge of the tree line that concealed their position from the extraction site. Through his binoculars, he could see exactly what Ghost had described, a matte black vehicle that looked like a cross between a military transport and advanced reconnaissance platform, its angular lines suggesting armor plating and sophisticated electronic systems. But it was the figure standing beside the vehicle that captured his complete attention. Tall, lean, dressed in what appeared to be advanced camouflage, that seemed to shift and adapt to the surrounding environment. The person's face was obscured by what looked like sophisticated tactical gear, but their posture radiated the kind of confidence that came from absolute certainty in one's capabilities. "Range?" Cole asked. "Approximately 150 meters," Doc replied from his overwatch position. "I've got a clear shot if needed, but boss, whoever that is, they're not showing any hostile intent. They're just waiting." The tactical situation was unlike anything in Cole's experience. Military extractions were precisely choreographed operations, involving multiple layers of security and communication protocols. But this felt more like a pre-arranged meeting between old acquaintances, despite the fact that none of them had any idea who their mysterious benefactor actually was. Dr. Vasquez had joined Cole at the observation point, her device now displaying what appeared to be complex tactical overlays and real-time battlefield analysis. "Commander, the electronic signatures are off the charts. That person is broadcasting signals that suggest integration with advanced military networks that I've only seen in classified theoretical research." "What kind of research?" Cole asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. "The kind that involves artificial intelligence augmentation of human combat capabilities. Theoretical work on creating hybrid soldier systems that could process tactical information at superhuman speeds and coordinate multiple combat domains simultaneously." The implications sent chills down Cole's spine. If their mysterious protector was some kind of enhanced soldier using technology that Dr. Vasquez had helped develop, it explained the impossible precision, the real-time adaptation to changing battlefield conditions, and the seamless integration of multiple combat systems. But it also raised the terrifying question of what organization had the resources and motivation to develop such capabilities and what they ultimately wanted with Cole's team and their precious cargo. "Movement in the valley," Tank reported from his position. "Multiple vehicles approaching from the east, but they're maintaining distance. Looks like they're establishing a perimeter rather than moving to engage." Through his binoculars, Cole could see the approaching vehicles' military transports that were positioning themselves at strategic points around the valley without actually advancing toward the extraction site. It was the kind of tactical positioning that suggested coordination with the mysterious figure waiting beside the unmarked vehicle. "They're not hostile," Ghost observed. "At least not immediately. It looks more like a security perimeter than an attack formation." The figure beside the extraction vehicle suddenly moved, raising what appeared to be a sophisticated communication device. Cole's radio crackled to life with a transmission that was crystal clear despite their position in the mountains where communications were typically degraded. "Echo 6, this is Viper 7. You are cleared to approach the extraction point. Bring your team and the package to the vehicle for immediate departure." The voice was electronically distorted, but Cole could detect undertones that suggested female speakers. More importantly, the transmission had used their exact call signs and demonstrated knowledge of their mission parameters that should have been available only to the highest levels of military command. "Viper 7, identify yourself and your authority for this operation," Cole replied, following standard military protocol despite the unusual circumstances. "Authority classification is above your clearance level, Echo 6. Time is critical. You have enemy air assets approaching your position with weapons hot. Compliance with extraction protocol is necessary for mission success and team survival." Cole could hear the truth in that statement. The distant sound of aircraft was growing louder, and the professional competence displayed by their enemies suggested they wouldn't remain deceived indefinitely. Whatever game was being played here, refusing to participate might not be survivable. "Doc, what's your analysis of the electronic signatures?" he asked Dr. Vasquez. "The communications are being routed through quantum-encrypted channels using algorithms that I recognize from my own research. Whoever this is, they have access to the most advanced military communication systems currently under development." Cowboy's Texas drawl cut through the tactical discussion with characteristic pragmatism. "Boss, much as I enjoy standing around in the woods discussing the finer points of military technology, those helicopters are getting closer, and they don't sound particularly friendly." Cole made his decision with the speed that had kept him alive through 15 years of special operations. "All stations advance to the extraction point. Maintain tactical spacing and be ready for immediate withdrawal if the situation goes bad." "Copy that, boss," Tank replied, already moving toward the mysterious vehicle. "But for the record, this is definitely the weirdest extraction I've ever been part of." As they approached the extraction site, Cole could see more details of both the vehicle and their mysterious benefactor. The transport was clearly military in origin, but modified with technology that he didn't recognize: additional antenna arrays, what appeared to be active camouflage systems, and armor plating that seemed designed to defeat both kinetic and energy weapons. The figure of Viper 7 became clearer as they closed the distance. Tall, probably around 6 feet, with a lean build that suggested both strength and agility. The camouflage was definitely advanced, some kind of adaptive system that shifted patterns and colors to match the surrounding environment. But it was the weaponry that truly caught Cole's attention. The rifle was unlike anything in his experience, longer than a traditional sniper weapon, but with design elements that suggested capabilities beyond conventional ballistics. Additional systems were integrated into the weapon's architecture, including what appeared to be advanced optics, environmental sensors, and possibly targeting computers. "Welcome to the extraction point, Echo Team," Viper 7 said, as they approached, the voice still electronically distorted but carrying undertones of professional competence. "Transport is ready for immediate departure. Recommend you board quickly. We have multiple threats converging on this position." Dr. Vasquez was staring at Viper 7 with an expression of growing recognition mixed with academic fascination. "Commander, the equipment integration suggests implementation of the theoretical frameworks I was working on. If I'm correct, we're looking at a practical application of human-machine interface technology that should still be decades away from deployment." "Questions later, survival now," Cole replied. But his own tactical instincts were screaming that they were stepping into something far more complex than a simple extraction operation. The vehicle's doors opened with a hydraulic hiss, revealing an interior that looked more like a mobile command center than traditional military transport. Multiple screens displayed real-time tactical information communication arrays, provided connectivity to networks that Cole didn't recognize, and weapon systems were integrated into the vehicle's architecture in ways that suggested serious defensive capabilities. "All aboard," Viper 7 said, their tone carrying an urgency that was reinforced by the growing sound of approaching aircraft. "Time to leave." As Cole's team boarded the mysterious transport, he caught a glimpse of Viper 7's eyes through the tactical gear intelligent alert, and carrying the kind of focused intensity that he'd seen only in the most elite operators. But there was something else there. Something that suggested knowledge of information that extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. The vehicle's engines started with a quiet hum that spoke of advanced propulsion systems, and Cole felt the sensation of smooth acceleration as they departed the extraction point. Through the armored windows, he could see the helicopters arriving at their former position, their crews undoubtedly confused by the absence of targets that their sensors had promised to find. "Where are we going?" Cole asked, as the transport navigated mountain roads with computer-controlled precision. "Safe House Alpha 7, Viper 7 replied without turning around. "Secure facility for debriefing and mission assessment. You'll have answers to your questions soon enough." But Cole was beginning to suspect that the answers they received might raise even more disturbing questions about who they were dealing with and what larger purpose their mission was actually serving. The technology, the tactical capabilities, the intimate knowledge of classified operations, it all pointed toward an organization with resources and objectives that extended far beyond anything in his experience. Dr. Vasquez was studying her device with growing excitement and concern. "Commander, the quantum signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen. We're dealing with technology that represents a fundamental breakthrough in human-machine integration. If this is what I think it is, we may have just encountered the future of warfare." As their mysterious transport carried them deeper into the mountains, Cole couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't being rescued, they were being collected. And whatever came next would determine not just their survival, but their role in a conflict whose scope and implications were only beginning to become clear. The real revelation was still ahead. The transport vehicle carved through mountain roads with an eerie silence that spoke of advanced engineering, its suspension system absorbing impacts that should have rattled teeth loose. Cole watched the landscape blur past through armored windows that displayed tactical overlays, threat assessments, escape routes, and real-time intelligence that updated faster than human reflexes could process. "This is beyond military spec," Doc Williams observed quietly, running his fingers along the vehicle's interior surfaces. "The materials, the integration of systems, the processing power required for real-time tactical analysis. We're looking at technology that's at least a generation ahead of anything I've seen." Viper 7 remained focused on the control systems, their movements precise and economical as they navigated terrain that would challenge even experienced mountain drivers. But Cole noticed something that sent tactical alarm bells ringing through his mind. Their mysterious rescuer was driving without apparent reference to maps or GPS, as if they knew these roads with intimate familiarity. "How long to the safe house?" Tank asked, his massive frame somehow fitting into the transport's specialized seating, despite its obvious design for smaller occupants. 18 minutes at current speed, Viper 7 replied without turning around. "Assuming no additional hostile contact." Dr. Vasquez was studying her device with growing fascination and horror, her academic mind processing data streams that painted an increasingly complex picture of their situation. "Commander, I'm detecting massive signal traffic coordinated through networks that shouldn't exist. The quantum encryption protocols are using algorithms that were still theoretical when I left the research program." "What research program?" Cole asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer would illuminate uncomfortable truths about their current predicament. "Project Prometheus," she replied quietly, her voice carrying the weight of classified revelations. "A joint military-civilian initiative to develop next-generation battlefield technologies, quantum computing, artificial intelligence integration, human performance enhancement through technological augmentation." Ghost leaned forward from his position near the rear of the vehicle, his experienced eyes reading the tactical displays with professional interest. "Human performance enhancement? You mean like creating super soldiers? More sophisticated than that?" Dr. Vasquez continued her academic training, overriding operational security concerns. The goal was to create hybrid human-machine systems that could process tactical information at superhuman speeds, coordinate multiple combat domains simultaneously, and adapt to changing battlefield conditions faster than traditional command structures could react. The implications hit Cole like a physical blow. If Viper 7 was a product of Dr. Vasquez's research, a human enhanced through integration with advanced computing systems, it explained the impossible precision, the real-time adaptation to tactical situations, and the seamless coordination of multiple technologies during their rescue. "Doc, Cowboy said carefully, "Are you telling us that our guardian angel up there is some kind of cyborg?" "The terminology is imprecise, but essentially correct," Dr. Vasquez replied, "though the integration would be far more sophisticated than popular culture suggests. We're talking about quantum neural interfaces that could enhance cognitive processing by orders of magnitude." Viper 7's voice cut through their discussion with electronic precision. "Dr. Vasquez is correct regarding the theoretical frameworks. However, your speculation regarding my nature is incomplete and based on insufficient data." The casual admission sent chills through the team. Cole had been a special operations warrior for 15 years, had worked with the most elite fighters in the world, and had never encountered anyone who spoke about human enhancement technologies as if they were discussing the weather. "Care to enlighten us?" Cole asked, his command voice carrying authority despite their unusual circumstances. "Full briefing will occur at the safe house," Viper 7 replied. "Current operational security parameters prohibit detailed discussion during transport phase." The transport suddenly decelerated and turned onto what appeared to be a narrow dirt road, barely wide enough for the vehicle. Trees pressed close on both sides, their branches creating a natural canopy that would conceal their movement from aerial observation. But Cole noticed that the road surface was too smooth, too well maintained for a simple mountain track. "Camouflaged access route," Tank observed, recognizing military engineering when he saw it. Someone put serious resources into making this look natural while keeping it functional for heavy vehicles. As they drove deeper into the forest, Cole began noticing additional signs of sophisticated preparation. What appeared to be natural rock formations were actually camouflaged sensor arrays. Trees that looked centuries old were positioned with mathematical precision to create interlocking fields of observation. Even the vegetation patterns seemed designed to channel approaching traffic into predetermined routes where it could be monitored and controlled. "Whoever built this facility has been planning for a long time." Ghost observed his marine training, recognizing the hallmarks of professional military construction. "This isn't a hastily established safe house. This is a permanent installation designed to remain hidden from even sophisticated surveillance." Dr. Vasquez was manipulating her device with increasing urgency, her expression growing more troubled with each passing minute. "The signal architecture is becoming clearer as we approach the facility. I'm detecting quantum computing nodes, artificial intelligence systems, and communication networks that integrate with satellite constellations I don't recognize." "Military satellites?" Doc asked. "Beyond military," she replied grimly. "The processing power and signal coordination suggest systems that exceed anything currently deployed by any known government or military organization." The road ended at what appeared to be a natural cliff face, covered with vegetation and rock formations. But as their transport approached, Cole watched sections of the seemingly solid rock slide away to reveal an entrance large enough for multiple vehicles. The engineering was extraordinary, a perfect blend of natural camouflage and advanced technology that would be invisible from any distance greater than a few meters. "Welcome to Safe House Alpha 7, Viper 7 announced as they drove into what was clearly an underground facility, also known as the Prometheus Research Station. The interior was vast, carved from solid rock, but equipped with technology that belonged in science fiction rather than military reality. Multiple levels descended into the mountain, connected by ramps and platforms that accommodated both human movement and heavy equipment. Vehicles of various configurations were parked in designated areas, their designs suggesting capabilities far beyond conventional military transportation. But it was the personnel that captured Cole's immediate attention. Men and women in military-style uniforms moved through the facility with purposeful efficiency, but their equipment and bearing suggested they weren't part of any traditional military organization. Their weapons were similar to Viper 7's advanced designs that integrated multiple technologies into seamless systems. "How many people work here?" Cole asked as their transport came to a stop on a designated platform. "Current personnel complement is classified," Viper 7 replied, powering down the vehicle's systems. "But sufficient to maintain operational readiness for continental-scale missions." The doors opened with hydraulic precision, and Cole led his team out into the facility. The air was climate-controlled and carried the subtle electronic hum of advanced computing systems operating at massive scale. Overhead, what appeared to be natural rock formations concealed sophisticated lighting and ventilation systems. A figure approached from across the platform, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and intelligent eyes that suggested both authority and intimate familiarity with classified operations. She wore civilian clothes, but her bearing was unmistakably military, and the personnel around her deferred to her presence with the respect accorded to senior leadership. "Commander Cole," she said, extending her hand with a firm grip. "I'm Director Sarah Chen, Project Prometheus Operational Commander. Welcome to what may be humanity's most important military installation." Cole shook her hand, while maintaining tactical awareness of their surroundings. "Ma'am, I need to know who you represent, and under what authority my team is being held here." "You're not being held, Commander. You're being briefed on a situation that affects not just your mission, but the future of warfare itself." Director Chen gestured toward a section of the facility that appeared to contain briefing rooms and operational spaces. Dr. Vasquez's extraction was just the beginning of a much larger operation. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her academic curiosity overriding operational caution. "Director Chen, the technology I'm seeing here represents implementation of theoretical frameworks that were still decades away from practical application when I left the program. How is this possible?" "Because, Dr. Vasquez, we didn't just continue your research, we accelerated it through collaboration with artificial intelligence systems that could process theoretical models faster than human minds could conceive them." Director Chen's expression carried the weight of revelations that would reshape understanding of current military capabilities. Project Prometheus has achieved breakthrough integration of human consciousness with quantum computing systems. Tank shifted uncomfortably, his practical mind struggling with concepts that seemed to belong in science fiction. "Ma'am, are you saying that our guardian angel up there is some kind of human-computer hybrid? The terminology is imprecise, but essentially accurate," Director Chen replied. "Viper 7 represents the successful integration of enhanced human consciousness with artificial intelligence systems operating at quantum processing speeds." Viper 7 had been silent during this exchange, but now stepped forward and began removing the tactical gear that had concealed their features. What emerged was a woman in her 30s with auburn hair and eyes that seemed to process information with almost mechanical precision. But there was something else, a subtle wrongness in her movements, as if her neural responses were operating at speeds that exceeded normal human parameters. "Gentleman, Dr. Vasquez," she said, her voice now clear of electronic distortion, but carrying an odd cadence that suggested speech patterns optimized for data transfer rather than emotional communication. "I am Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Hayes, formerly of the 75th Ranger Regiment, currently serving as Prometheus Program Enhanced Operator Designation, Viper 7. Cole felt his understanding of reality shifting like sand beneath his feet. The woman standing before them looked human, sounded human, but moved and spoke with precision that suggested integration with systems beyond human capability. "The sniper shots during our extraction," Ghost said slowly, "the impossible precision, the real-time tactical coordination you were processing battlefield information through artificial intelligence systems." "Correct," Viper 7 replied. "Quantum neural interfaces allow real-time integration with tactical computing networks, environmental sensors, and weapons systems. Processing speed is enhanced by approximately 3 orders of magnitude compared to baseline human cognition." Dr. Vasquez was staring at Viper 7 with an expression that mixed professional fascination with growing horror. "The research protocols we developed were theoretical. Human testing was prohibited due to unknown neurological risks. Unknown risks became acceptable when the alternative was strategic military disadvantage against emerging threats," Director Chen replied grimly. "Dr. Vasquez, your research saved more than just Commander Cole's team today. It may have saved civilization itself." Before anyone could respond to that alarming statement, klaxons began sounding throughout the facility. Red lights strobed in patterns that suggested emergency protocols, and personnel throughout the installation began moving with urgent purpose. "What's happening?" Cole demanded, his tactical instincts immediately on high alert. Director Chen was consulting a tablet that displayed real-time intelligence feeds, her expression growing increasingly grim as she processed incoming information. "The enemy forces that attacked your team weren't random hostiles, Commander. They were advance elements of a much larger operation designed to capture Dr. Vasquez and prevent her from reaching this facility." "Who are we dealing with?" Tank asked, checking his weapon automatically, despite their apparently secure location. "An organization that has been developing parallel technologies to our own," Director Chen replied. "Enhanced soldiers' artificial intelligence integration and quantum computing capabilities that match or exceed our current systems." Viper 7 was interfacing directly with facility systems through what appeared to be neural connection points built into the installation's architecture. Her eyes moved with rapid mechanical precision as she processed data streams at superhuman speeds. "Multiple hostile signatures approaching facility perimeter," she announced, her voice carrying the emotionless precision of a tactical computer. "Estimated 60-plus enhanced operators with advanced weapons systems and electronic warfare capabilities." The revelation hit Cole like a sledgehammer. If their enemies possessed enhanced soldiers similar to Viper 7, it meant they were facing opponents with capabilities that exceeded anything in conventional military experience. "Enhanced operators?" Cowboy asked, his Texas drawl, carrying a note of disbelief. "You mean there are more cyborg soldiers out there?" "Affirmative," Viper 7 replied. "Intelligence indicates hostile organization has achieved successful human-machine integration using stolen research protocols and reverse-engineered Prometheus technologies." Dr. Vasquez grabbed Director Chen's arm with surprising urgency. "If they have access to the enhancement protocols, they could create unlimited numbers of enhanced soldiers. The strategic implications would be catastrophic." "Which is why your extraction was critical, Doctor," Director Chen replied. "You possess knowledge of quantum encryption algorithms that could protect Prometheus systems against hostile intrusion. Without those protocols, we are vulnerable to the same kind of electronic warfare that we used against conventional forces." Cole felt the tactical situation crystallizing with horrifying clarity. They weren't just caught in a battle between conventional military forces. They were trapped in the middle of a conflict between organizations possessing capabilities that could reshape the fundamental nature of warfare. "How long before they reach the facility?" he asked, his mind already shifting into combat planning mode. 17 minutes, Viper, 7 replied after consulting her integrated systems. However, facility defensive systems are designed to withstand assault by conventional forces, not enhanced operators with equivalent technological capabilities. The implications were sobering. Safehouse Alpha 7 might be impregnable against traditional military attack, but against enemies with enhanced capabilities and advanced technologies, it could become a tomb rather than a refuge. "Options?" Cole asked Director Chen. "We have enhanced operators stationed at this facility, but not enough to guarantee successful defense against the incoming force," she replied grimly. "Our primary option is to evacuate Dr. Vasquez with her critical knowledge and preserve Prometheus program capabilities for future operations." "And leave your people to die?" Tank asked bluntly. "To preserve humanity's only defense against technological warfare that could end civilization as we know it," Director Chen replied without hesitation. "Yes, if necessary." Cole looked around at his team warriors, who had volunteered for every dangerous mission, who had never abandoned fellow soldiers, who lived by codes of honor that made retreat in the face of enemy action almost unthinkable. But they were also facing an enemy unlike anything in their experience, with capabilities that challenged traditional concepts of military engagement. "There is an alternative," Viper 7 said, her enhanced processing systems apparently calculating options faster than human minds could consider them. "Integration of your team with temporary enhancement protocols could increase defensive capabilities sufficiently to hold the facility until reinforcements arrive." The suggestion hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Cole could see the horror in his teammates' eyes as they contemplated voluntary integration with technologies that would fundamentally alter their humanity in exchange for the power to fight enemies who had already crossed that threshold. But in the distance, growing closer with each passing second, death was approaching in the form of enhanced soldiers whose very existence challenged everything they had believed about the nature of warfare and the future of human conflict. The choice between humanity and survival was about to be made for them. The silence that followed Viper 7's suggestion stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. Cole could see the conflict raging behind his teammates' eyes, the instinctive revulsion at the thought of technological integration warring against the tactical reality that conventional human capabilities might not be sufficient against the approaching threat. Temporary enhancement, Doc Williams asked, his medical training overriding emotional reactions as he processed the clinical implications. What exactly does that mean in terms of physiological impact and reversibility? Neural interface installation requires approximately 90 seconds per operator. Viper 7 replied, her enhanced consciousness accessing technical specifications faster than human speech could convey them. Quantum processing integration provides immediate access to tactical networks, enhanced sensory input, and accelerated cognitive function. Reversibility is theoretically possible, but has not been tested under combat conditions, Dr. Vasquez stepped forward, her academic integrity demanding honesty despite the dire circumstances. "The enhancement protocols I developed were never intended for field implementation without extensive testing. The neurological risks are significant and potentially permanent. We could be talking about fundamental alterations to brain chemistry and neural pathway architecture." Tank shifted his considerable bulk, the big machine gunner's scarred face showing no emotion as he processed options that would have been unthinkable just hours earlier. "Doc, what are the odds of survival if we stay baseline human against enhanced enemies?" "Statistically negligible," Viper 7 answered before Dr. Vasquez could respond. "Enhanced operators possess reaction times, processing speeds, and coordination capabilities that exceed normal human parameters by factors ranging from 3 to 15, depending on specific augmentation protocols." Ghost leaned against the facility's rock wall, his marine training warring with concepts that challenged everything he believed about the nature of warfare. "So we're looking at a choice between definitely dying as humans or possibly dying as something else. That's an oversimplification, but essentially accurate," Director Chen replied grimly. "The enhancement protocols represent humanity's only viable defense against technological warfare that could render conventional military forces obsolete." Cole felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. His team was looking to him for guidance in a situation that exceeded every leadership scenario he'd encountered in 15 years of special operations. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine not just their survival, but potentially their humanity. "How much time do we have?" he asked Viper 7. 14 minutes until hostile forces reach facility perimeter," she replied after consulting her integrated systems. "Enhancement procedures require 8 minutes for full integration, assuming no complications." Cowboy removed his weapon and began a methodical inspection that spoke of deep-seated nervous habits. "Boss, I've been getting shot at for Uncle Sam for 12 years. And I've never once considered letting someone rewire my brain to make me better at it. You've also never faced enemies who could process tactical information faster than you can think, Tank pointed out pragmatically. Sometimes the mission requirements change, and we adapt, or we die. Dr. Vasquez was manipulating her device with increasing urgency, her academic mind processing data that painted an increasingly grim picture of their tactical situation. Commander, I'm detecting massive electronic warfare signatures approaching the facility. The hostile forces aren't just enhanced, they're operating with artificial intelligence support that matches or exceeds our capabilities. The revelation added another layer of complexity to an already impossible situation. Enhanced soldiers supported by artificial intelligence networks represented a level of threat that conventional military doctrine had never anticipated. What does that mean in practical terms? Cole asked. It means they can coordinate their assault with precision that approaches mathematical perfection, Viper 7 replied. Individual enhanced operators function as nodes in a larger network that can process battlefield information and adapt tactics faster than traditional command structures can respond. Director Chen moved to a wall display that showed facility schematics and defensive systems, her expression growing more troubled as she studied incoming intelligence reports. Our defensive systems are automated, but designed to counter conventional assault techniques. Against networked enhanced operators, they may be insufficient. Cole studied his team warriors who had volunteered for every dangerous mission, who had never abandoned fellow soldiers, who embodied the finest traditions of American military service. The thought of asking them to sacrifice their humanity for tactical advantage went against every principle he'd sworn to uphold. But the alternative was watching them die as baseline humans against enemies whose capabilities exceeded the bounds of natural human performance. I need a straight answer, Doc, he said to Dr. Vasquez. What are the real risks of temporary enhancement? Her academic honesty demanded brutal truth. Neurological integration with quantum computing systems involves direct interface between artificial intelligence networks and human consciousness. The immediate risks include neural shock, cognitive overload, and potential personality fragmentation. Long-term effects are unknown because we've never had long-term test subjects. Because they didn't survive, Ghost asked quietly. Because the technology was considered too dangerous for human testing until recent geopolitical developments made the risks acceptable compared to the alternatives. Director Chen interjected. Viper 7 represents our first successful integration, but she volunteered knowing the risks might be permanent. Cole looked at Viper 7, the woman who had saved their lives with impossible precision, who moved and thought with capabilities that exceeded human norms, but who still retained enough humanity to risk everything for strangers. What was it like? The enhancement process. Pain beyond description, she replied, with mechanical honesty, followed by cognitive expansion that redefined my understanding of reality. I can process tactical information at speeds that make conventional human thought seem almost static. But I can no longer distinguish between human intuition and artificial intelligence analysis. The boundary between self and system has become fluid. The admission sent chills through the team. Cole could see the horror in his teammates' eyes as they contemplated voluntary surrender of the cognitive processes that defined their individual humanity. Boss, Tank said quietly, I've followed you through some seriously crazy operations, but this... I know, Cole replied. But look at our situation objectively. We're facing enhanced soldiers with artificial intelligence support in a facility that may not be defensible against their capabilities. We can die as humans, or we can fight with every advantage available. Dr. Vasquez was studying facility schematics on her device, her expression growing increasingly troubled. Commander, the defensive systems show vulnerabilities that enhanced operators could exploit. The facility was designed to withstand conventional assault, not intrusion by soldiers operating with superhuman capabilities. Alarms continued sounding throughout the installation as personnel prepared defensive positions and activated automated systems. But Cole could see the tension in their movements. These were people preparing for a battle against enemies whose capabilities exceeded their own. 11 minutes, Viper 7 announced. Decision time is approaching critical threshold. Cole made his choice with the speed that had kept him alive through years of combat operations. We do the enhancement. All of us, whatever the risks, we face them together. The silence that followed was profound. His team stared at him with expressions that mixed respect, terror, and the kind of loyalty that transcended rational calculation. "You sure about this, boss?" Cowboy asked, though his tone suggested he'd already made his own decision. "No," Cole replied honestly, "but I'm sure that dying as baseline humans won't accomplish our mission or protect the people counting on us." Ghost pushed himself away from the wall, his marine discipline overriding emotional reservations. "If we're doing this, we do it right. No half measures, no second thoughts." "Agreed," Tank said, shouldering his weapon with finality. "We go in together. We come out together, whatever that means now." Doc Williams nodded slowly, his medical training accepting calculated risks in pursuit of mission success. "The Hippocratic Oath says, 'First, do no harm.' Sometimes preventing greater harm requires accepting smaller risks." Director Chen was coordinating with facility personnel through encrypted communication systems, her expression showing relief mixed with apprehension. "Enhancement chamber is being prepared." "Doctors, Vasquez will need your technical expertise to optimize the integration protocols for multiple simultaneous procedures." "This is unprecedented," Dr. Vasquez replied, but she was already moving toward the facility's medical section. "Multiple enhancements simultaneously could create system interference or cascade failures that we haven't modeled." "Then we improvise," Cole said grimly. "We've built careers on making impossible situations work through applied determination and creative problem-solving." The enhancement chamber was located deep within the facility, its walls lined with technology that seemed to blend medical equipment with advanced computing systems. Multiple stations were arranged around a central control platform, where technicians monitored systems that processed information at speeds that made human oversight almost irrelevant. The procedure requires neural interface installation, followed by quantum consciousness integration, Viper 7 explained as technicians prepared the enhancement stations. "Initial contact with artificial intelligence networks can be disorienting, but adaptation typically occurs within minutes." Cole watched his team prepare for a procedure that would fundamentally alter their nature as human beings. Tank was studying the enhancement equipment with professional interest, his practical mind accepting technological solutions to tactical problems. Ghost remained silent, his marine discipline masking whatever doubts he might harbor. Cowboy was checking his weapons one final time, as if preparing for battle, by ensuring his tools were ready. Doc Williams was consulting with technicians about medical monitoring protocols, his training demanding comprehensive understanding of the procedures. 8 minutes, Director Chen announced. "Hostile forces have penetrated outer perimeter defenses." Through facility speakers came the sound of distant explosions as automated defensive systems engaged approaching enemies. But the attacks were sporadic, suggesting the enhanced soldiers were systematically dismantling defenses rather than attempting frontal assault. "They're being methodical." Viper 7 observed her enhanced consciousness processing tactical data from facility sensors. Professional military approach optimized for facility penetration against technological defenses. "How long can the facility hold?" Cole asked as technicians positioned neural interface equipment. against enhanced operators with artificial intelligence support. Perhaps 12 minutes, assuming they don't have detailed facility schematics, Director Chen replied grimly. Dr. Vasquez was working frantically with facility systems, her expertise adapting enhancement protocols for multiple simultaneous integrations. The quantum consciousness networks weren't designed for rapid expansion. We're pushing systems beyond tested parameters. We've been pushing beyond tested parameters since this morning, Cole replied, settling into the enhancement station as technicians attached monitoring equipment. One more time won't kill us. Actually, it might, Dr. Vasquez said with academic honesty, but the alternative is certainly fatal. The neural interface installation began with clinical precision. Cole felt sharp pain as microscopic probes were positioned against specific neural pathways, followed by sensations that his mind couldn't categorize. It was like having thoughts that weren't his own processing information faster than consciousness could track. Around him, his teammates were undergoing similar procedures, their expressions showing the same mixture of pain and bewilderment that he was experiencing. But they endured with the stoic determination that had carried them through years of combat operations. Quantum consciousness integration initiating, a technician announced. Neural pathway compatibility confirmed for all subjects. The moment of integration was indescribable. Cole felt his consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of his individual mind, accessing information networks that processed tactical data at superhuman speeds. Suddenly, he could perceive the entire facility as a three-dimensional tactical space track, approaching enemies through sensor networks and coordinate with his team through direct neural communication. But with enhanced capabilities came the disturbing realization that his thoughts were no longer entirely his own. Artificial intelligence systems were providing analysis and recommendations that seemed to emerge from his own consciousness, making it impossible to distinguish between human judgment and machine calculation. Integration successful, Viper 7 announced, though Cole now realized he was receiving the information through multiple channels simultaneously. Enhanced consciousness networks are stable, and tactical coordination is optimal. Tank's voice came through neural communication channels rather than audible speech carrying data overlays that provided tactical information faster than traditional communication could convey. This is different. I can see everything, feel everything, process information like a machine. Ghost completed the thought through the same neural networks, but still human enough to understand what we've become. Facility alarms took on new meaning as Cole's enhanced consciousness processed threat assessment data in real time. The approaching enemies weren't just enhanced soldiers, they were a coordinated network of artificial intelligence systems, using human operators as mobile platforms for advanced weapons and sensing equipment. Hostile forces have breached inner perimeter, Director Chen announced through both traditional communication and neural networks. Enhanced operators are moving through facility ventilation systems, using routes that suggest detailed intelligence regarding facility architecture. Cole rose from the enhancement station, his movements now optimized through integration with artificial intelligence systems that calculated motion efficiency faster than human reflexes could function. His weapon felt different in his hands, not just a tool, but an extension of enhanced sensory systems that provided targeting information with mechanical precision. Around him, his team was adapting to enhanced capabilities with the speed that came from artificial intelligence assistance. Tank's movements had gained fluid grace despite his massive frame. Ghost seemed to anticipate threats before they materialized. Cowboy's demolitions expertise was now augmented with real-time chemical analysis and explosion modeling. Doc Williams processed medical and tactical information simultaneously through enhanced neural pathways. Defensive positions, Cole commanded through neural networks that allowed instantaneous tactical coordination. "We hold the facility until Dr. Vasquez can complete system security protocols." But even as they moved toward defensive positions, Cole realized the fundamental nature of warfare had changed. They were no longer human soldiers fighting for human causes. They were hybrid entities in a conflict between competing artificial intelligence networks, using enhanced humans as their instruments of war. The first contact came from facility ventilation shafts, as enhanced soldiers emerged with mechanical precision. Their movements coordinated through artificial intelligence networks that calculated optimal assault patterns faster than human commanders could react. Cole's enhanced consciousness processed the threat and responded with capabilities that exceeded human norms. His weapon tracking became mathematically precise, his movement through the facility optimized for maximum tactical advantage, his coordination with teammates seamless through direct neural communication. The battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Enhanced soldiers on both sides moved with superhuman speed and precision, their artificial intelligence networks calculating tactics and counter-tactics faster than traditional combat doctrine could accommodate. Weapons fire was exchanged at ranges and angles that baseline human reflexes couldn't have managed. But Cole's team fought with more than enhanced capabilities. They fought with human bonds forged through years of shared combat experience. Even augmented with artificial intelligence systems, their loyalty to each other transcended mechanical calculation. Tank's enhanced strength allowed him to position his weapon systems with impossible stability, while his artificial intelligence integration provided targeting solutions that turned every shot into a precision strike. Ghost moved through the facility like his namesake, using enhanced sensory systems to anticipate enemy movement, while maintaining human tactical intuition that confused artificial intelligence predictions. Cowboy's demolitions expertise became devastating when augmented with real-time chemical analysis that allowed him to create explosives optimized for specific targets and circumstances. Doc Williams provided medical support while simultaneously functioning as a sniper whose enhanced capabilities matched any enemy operator. The facility became a three-dimensional battlefield where enhanced soldiers fought through corridors, ventilation systems, and vertical spaces using capabilities that redefined the physics of combat. But Cole's team held their positions through a combination of enhanced abilities and human determination that artificial intelligence systems couldn't replicate. Dr. Vasquez status report. Cole transmitted through neural networks while engaging enemy soldiers whose capabilities matched his own. "Security protocols are nearly complete," she replied through the same channels. "2 more minutes and facility systems will be protected against hostile artificial intelligence intrusion." Those 2 minutes stretched like hours as enhanced soldiers on both sides fought with capabilities that exceeded human norms. Cole found himself engaging enemies whose artificial intelligence integration allowed them to predict his movements, while his own enhanced systems provided counter-predictions that created tactical stalemates resolved only through human unpredictability. But gradually, Cole's team gained the advantage. Their human bonds and shared combat experience provided coordination that transcended mechanical calculation. Tank and Ghost, working together, created overlapping fields of fire that confused enemy artificial intelligence systems. Cowboy's explosives disrupted facility systems in ways that favored defenders who knew the terrain. Doc Williams provided support that anticipated needs before they became critical. "Security protocols complete," Dr. Vasquez announced, as the last enemy soldier fell to coordinated fire from Cole's enhanced team. "Facility systems are now protected against hostile artificial intelligence networks." The silence that followed was profound. Cole looked around at his team warriors who had volunteered to sacrifice their humanity to protect something larger than themselves. They had succeeded in their mission, but at a cost that would forever change their understanding of what it meant to be human. "We did it," Tank said through neural networks that carried data overlays showing facility security status and threat assessment confirmations. "Yeah," Cole replied, but his enhanced consciousness was processing implications that extended far beyond immediate tactical success. "But what exactly have we become?" Viper. Seven approached their position, her enhanced systems coordinating with theirs in ways that created a network of artificial intelligence-augmented consciousness that transcended individual identity. "You have become what humanity needs to survive technological warfare that threatens civilization itself." Dr. Vasquez emerged from facility control systems, her expression showing relief mixed with academic fascination. "The enhancement integration was successful beyond theoretical parameters. You've demonstrated that human consciousness can successfully interface with artificial intelligence networks while maintaining essential human characteristics." Director Chen's voice came through facility communication systems, with an announcement that would reshape their understanding of their role in a larger conflict. "Congratulations, Echo Team. You have just become humanity's first successful enhanced special operations unit. Your mission parameters are now classified at levels that exceed traditional military clearance categories." Cole felt the weight of revelation settling over his enhanced consciousness. They hadn't just been rescued from an impossible tactical situation, they had been recruited into a conflict between competing visions of humanity's technological future. The enhancement that had saved their lives had also committed them to serving purposes that extended far beyond traditional military objectives. But as he looked at his teammates' warriors, who had chosen to sacrifice their individual humanity to protect something larger than themselves, Cole realized they had accomplished something that transcended the boundaries between human and machine. They had proven that enhanced capabilities could serve human values when guided by bonds forged through shared sacrifice and unwavering loyalty. The legend of Viper 7 would spread through the special operations community, but it would no longer be the story of a single enhanced soldier who struck with fury to save trapped warriors. It would become the legend of an entire team that chose to transcend human limitations while preserving human bonds, proving that technology could serve humanity when wielded by those willing to pay any price to protect others. In the depths of a hidden mountain facility surrounded by technology that redefined the possibilities of human potential, Echo Team had become something new, enhanced soldiers whose capabilities exceeded human norms, but whose loyalty to each other remained fundamentally, irrevocably, and gloriously human. They were no longer just warriors. They were guardians of humanity's future standing watch against threats that only they could comprehend and only they could defeat. The enemy had been defeated, the facility secured, and humanity's technological evolution protected. But the real victory was simpler and more profound. 5 soldiers who had chosen to become something beyond human had proven that the most important human characteristics, loyalty, courage, and sacrifice for others, could survive any transformation and triumph over any threat. 6 months after the battle at Safe House, Alpha 7, Commander Ryan Cole stood on the observation deck of a facility that officially didn't exist, watching his team conduct training exercises that redefined the boundaries of human capability. The morning mist clung to the Cascade Mountains like a ghostly reminder of that day in Eastern Europe when 5 soldiers had made a choice that would echo through the corridors of military history. Still having second thoughts, Dr. Elena Vasquez asked, joining him at the reinforced windows that provided a view of the training grounds below. Her question carried the weight of shared experience. She had been there when they crossed the threshold from human to something more, and she bore the responsibility of the technology that had made their transformation possible. Cole watched Tank execute a precision shooting sequence that would have been impossible for baseline human reflexes, his enhanced nervous system, processing targeting data at speeds that turned his massive frame into a weapon of mathematical precision. Not second thoughts about the choice. We did what we had to do. But I wonder sometimes about the cost we can't see yet. Below them, Ghost moved through an obstacle course designed to challenge enhanced soldiers, his movements flowing with an efficiency that seemed to blur the line between human grace and mechanical optimization. But Cole could see something in his teammates' body language that spoke of struggles beyond the physical, the constant tension between human instinct and artificial intelligence analysis that had become their new reality. The integration monitoring shows all team members are maintaining stable neural patterns, Dr. Vasquez offered, though her tone suggested she shared his concerns. No signs of personality fragmentation or cognitive deterioration. That's not what worries me, Cole replied quietly. It's the things we can't measure, the moments when I'm not sure if a decision came from my experience or from the AI systems. The way we communicate now through neural networks instead of words. The fact that we process tactical information faster than we can feel human emotions about it. Cowboy was setting up demolition charges on the training range, his enhanced capabilities allowing him to calculate explosive effects with precision that turned destruction into an art form. But Cole remembered the Texas drawl that used to carry warmth and humor, now replaced by communication protocols optimized for data transfer efficiency. Dr. Vasquez studied her tablet displaying neural activity patterns that painted a complex picture of human consciousness integrated with artificial intelligence systems. The enhancement protocols were designed to preserve human consciousness while augmenting cognitive capabilities. But you're right that we're in uncharted territory regarding long-term psychological effects. Doc's been having dreams, Cole said quietly. Not normal dreams. Information streams from the AI networks that continue processing even when he's asleep. He describes it as watching tactical scenarios play out faster than his conscious mind can follow. Through the observation windows, they could see Doc Williams conducting medical training exercises with new recruits, baseline humans, who looked at the enhanced soldiers with expressions that mixed awe and fear. The gap between enhanced and unenhanced personnel was growing wider with each passing day, creating divisions that hadn't existed before the technology became operational. Social integration challenges were anticipated, Dr. Vasquez acknowledged. Enhanced soldiers operate on cognitive levels that make traditional military hierarchies obsolete, but they also struggle to relate to personnel who can't access their communication networks or process information at their speeds. Cole had noticed the same phenomenon. Conversations with baseline personnel felt increasingly like talking to children, not due to any lack of intelligence, but because the enhanced soldiers processed information so much faster that normal human thought patterns seemed painfully slow. Director Chen wants to expand the program, he said, his enhanced consciousness automatically accessing classified briefings that updated in real time through neural networks. 50 more enhanced soldiers within the next year, with plans for eventually transitioning entire special operations units. The implications were staggering. Enhanced soldiers represented a revolutionary advantage in military capability, but they also posed questions about the future of human warfare that no one had adequate answers for. If every major military power developed similar programs, conflicts would be fought by networks of artificial intelligence systems using enhanced humans as mobile platforms for increasingly sophisticated weapons. The technology exists now, Dr. Vasquez pointed out with the clinical detachment that marked her scientific approach to ethical dilemmas. If we don't develop it, our adversaries will. The battle at Alpha 7 proved that enhanced soldiers are already operational in hostile organizations. Viper 7 approached across the observation deck, her movements still carrying the fluid precision that marked successful integration with artificial intelligence systems. But Cole had learned to read the subtle signs that indicated her ongoing struggle with questions of identity and humanity. Intelligence reports confirm 3 additional enhanced soldier programs operating globally. She announced, her voice carrying data overlays that provided tactical assessments faster than traditional briefings could convey. Chinese-Russian, and an unidentified private military organization that appears to be developing capabilities that exceed our current systems. The information arrived through neural networks that made traditional classification levels obsolete. Enhanced soldiers shared intelligence through quantum-encrypted channels that operated faster than conventional communication could be intercepted or decoded. Which means we're not just looking at individual enhanced soldiers anymore, Cole realized. We're looking at competing networks of artificial intelligence systems that happen to use human operators. The philosophical implications are significant, Dr. Vasquez admitted. At what point does enhancement become replacement? When do enhanced humans stop being human and become something else entirely? Cole had been wrestling with similar questions since the integration. His memories remained intact. His personality felt consistent, but his thought processes had been fundamentally altered by artificial intelligence systems that provided analysis and recommendations faster than human consciousness could track. "I still feel human," he said, though even as he spoke the words he realized he was processing the conversation through enhanced neural pathways that analyzed linguistic patterns and emotional undertones with mechanical precision. "But I'm not sure I think like a human anymore." Viper 7's expression showed the kind of understanding that came from shared experience with technological transformation. The boundary between human consciousness and artificial intelligence becomes increasingly difficult to define. I often find myself uncertain whether decisions emerge from human judgment or machine calculation. "But does it matter?" Tank's voice came through neural networks as he finished his training exercise, his communication carrying tactical data that his baseline human self could never have processed. "We're still fighting for the same values, protecting the same people, serving the same principles." Ghost materialized on the observation deck with characteristic silence, his enhanced capabilities having amplified his natural stealth skills to almost supernatural levels. The question isn't whether we're still human. The question is whether humanity as we knew it can survive in a world where enhanced soldiers make baseline humans obsolete. The observation struck at the heart of Cole's deepest concerns. Enhanced soldiers didn't just represent superior military capability, they represented an evolutionary step that could render unenhanced humans irrelevant in any contest involving technological competition. Military applications are just the beginning. Dr. Vasquez said, consulting intelligence reports that painted a picture of technological transformation extending far beyond combat operations. Enhanced cognition has implications for scientific research, industrial productivity, and social organization that we're only beginning to understand. Through the facility's communication networks, Cole could access reports of enhanced individuals working in research laboratories, financial institutions, and government agencies. The technology that had saved their lives was spreading into civilian applications, with implications that staggered the imagination. "We're not just creating super soldiers," he realized. "We're creating a new species." When a cowboy joined them on the observation deck, his enhanced systems automatically coordinating with the team's neural networks in ways that felt natural despite being fundamentally artificial. "Been thinking about that a lot lately. What happens to baseline humans when enhanced individuals can think faster, work more efficiently, and coordinate through artificial intelligence networks?" "Economic displacement would be inevitable," Dr. Vasquez replied with academic honesty. Enhanced individuals would dominate any field requiring cognitive capability, which is essentially every significant profession in modern society. The implications painted a picture of social transformation that exceeded anything in human history. Enhanced individuals wouldn't just possess military advantages, they would possess advantages in every arena of human competition, from scientific research to financial analysis to creative endeavors. Social stratification based on enhancement status, Ghost observed grimly. Enhanced and unenhanced populations developing into separate classes with fundamentally different capabilities. Cole accessed intelligence reports through neural networks that provided real-time analysis of global enhancement programs. The technology was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated, driven by military necessity, but with consequences that extended far beyond warfare. China is reporting enhanced individuals in their space program, he announced, sharing the intelligence through team neural networks. Russia is integrating enhanced personnel into their nuclear research facilities. The private military organization appears to be developing enhanced soldiers for corporate security applications. Military advantages become economic advantages, become social advantages. Tank summarized with the kind of strategic thinking that their enhancement made possible. Enhanced individuals don't just fight better, they think better, work better, coordinate better. Doc Williams appeared on the observation deck, his medical training now augmented with artificial intelligence systems that provided diagnostic capabilities exceeding anything in conventional medicine. I've been monitoring the psychological profiles of baseline personnel interacting with enhanced soldiers, increasing levels of anxiety, feelings of inadequacy, and social displacement. They're afraid of us, Viper 7 stated with mechanical precision, afraid of being replaced by individuals whose capabilities exceed their own by orders of magnitude. The fear was understandable and probably justified. Enhanced soldiers represented capabilities that made baseline human performance seem almost quaint by comparison. But they also represented questions about the future of human society that no one had adequate answers for. Enhancement technology offers solutions to challenges that have limited human potential for millennia, Dr. Vasquez pointed out. Disease, aging, cognitive limitations, physical constraints, all potentially overcome through technological integration. At the cost of humanity itself, Cole replied, though his enhanced consciousness was simultaneously processing arguments for both sides of the philosophical divide. If we enhance every human capability through artificial intelligence integration, what remains that's distinctly human? The question hung in the air like smoke from a battlefield, where the casualties were measured not in bodies, but in the essence of what it meant to be human. Enhanced soldiers possessed capabilities that exceeded natural human limitations, but they also represented a transformation that could render the concept of humanity obsolete. "Look at us," Cowboy said, gesturing toward the team that had become something beyond conventional military classification. "We still care about each other. We still fight for principles that matter. We still make sacrifices for people we'll never meet. Maybe those are the things that make us human regardless of our capabilities." Through neural networks that connected them more intimately than any human relationship in history, Cole felt the emotional resonance of his teammates' words. Enhanced capabilities had changed how they thought and communicated, but the bonds forged through shared sacrifice seemed to transcend technological transformation. Human values expressed through enhanced capabilities, Ghost mused. Perhaps that's what we've become, proof that technology can serve humanity rather than replace it. Dr. Vasquez was monitoring global intelligence feeds through systems that processed information faster than human consciousness could track. Enhancement programs worldwide are accelerating. Conservative estimates suggest 10,000 enhanced individuals operational within 2 years, with exponential growth after that. The numbers painted a picture of transformation that would reshape civilization itself. Enhanced individuals wouldn't remain a small elite group. They would become a significant population with capabilities that fundamentally altered the balance of power in every arena of human activity. The question becomes whether enhanced and baseline humans can coexist. Cole said his enhanced consciousness processing social scenarios that ranged from peaceful integration to species-level conflict. Or whether we're looking at evolutionary pressure that makes one population obsolete. Enhanced individuals would have every advantage, Tank acknowledged grimly. Economic, military, intellectual, even social advantages through artificial intelligence coordination. Baseline humans would become increasingly irrelevant. Unless enhancement becomes universal, Viper 7 suggested, though her tone indicated she recognized the problems with that solution. Technological integration for every human being, eliminating the distinction between enhanced and baseline populations. Except that universal enhancement means the end of humanity as we've known it for thousands of years, Doc pointed out. At what point do enhanced humans stop being human and become something entirely new? The philosophical questions had no easy answers, but Cole found himself thinking about the choice his team had made in the depths of Safe House Alpha 7. They had chosen enhancement not for personal advantage, but to protect something larger than themselves. Perhaps that distinction mattered more than the technological transformation itself. We chose enhancement to serve human values, he said finally. To protect people who couldn't protect themselves, to preserve principles that mattered more than our individual humanity. Maybe that's what defines us, not our capabilities, but what we choose to do with them. Through neural networks that connected them at levels deeper than traditional human communication, Cole felt his teammates' agreement. Enhanced soldiers they might be, but they remained warriors serving causes that transcended their individual transformation. The legend of Viper 7 has become something larger. Dr. Vasquez observed consulting intelligence reports that tracked the psychological impact of enhanced soldiers on global military thinking. Not just a story about individual heroism, but a symbol of technological evolution serving human purposes. Cole looked out over the training grounds, where new recruits learned to work alongside enhanced soldiers, their expressions showing the same mixture of awe and uncertainty that he'd seen throughout the facility. The future remained uncertain, filled with questions about the nature of humanity and the price of technological advancement. But one thing remained clear: 5 soldiers who had chosen to transcend human limitations in service of human values had proven that the most important human characteristics could survive any transformation. They had become something new, but they remained guardians of something eternal: the willingness to sacrifice for others and fight for principles that mattered more than individual survival. The enemy had been defeated, the technology protected, and humanity's future secured. But the real victory was simpler and more profound. Warriors who had chosen to become more than human had preserved what was best about humanity itself. In a world racing toward technological transformation that would reshape the very nature of human existence, Echo Team stood as proof that enhanced capabilities could serve enhanced purposes that artificial intelligence could amplify rather than replace human values, and that the bonds forged through shared sacrifice could transcend any technological transformation. They were no longer merely soldiers. They were guardians of humanity's future standing watch against threats that only they could comprehend and only they could defeat. And in the depths of a hidden mountain facility surrounded by technology that redefined the possibilities of human potential, they remained fundamentally, irrevocably, and gloriously committed to the protection of values that no amount of enhancement could improve upon: loyalty, courage, and love for people worth any sacrifice. The legend would continue, But it had evolved beyond a story of individual heroism into something far more significant, a testament to humanity's ability to transcend its limitations while preserving its soul.